In a previous video, I mentioned that I've been picking up some Ontario Northland HO locomotives for my layout. However, fortunately, they were all done up in Ontario Northland colors. Unfortunately, neither one was DCC, let alone DCC sound. One being this GP9 here, made by Proto 2000, or now owned by Walthers, but at the time it was lifelike. And the other one being an Athearn blue box, actually. So I decided to take it upon myself to convert both to DCC sound. So I'll quickly walk through the process on both, and you can potentially want to do these projects yourself. Let's start with the Proto 2000 GP9. Now I do apologize, I didn't take a lot of detailed pictures on the project, but what I'll do is I'll include in the description a link to a soundtracks video about how to install into a Proto. It's actually a switcher. You can also find videos on people who have done GP9s as well. Not necessarily with the soundtracks, it might have been with the lock sound, but it's the same principle. And typically what I have to do, you have to basically take the frame or the weight part out and you have to mill it out a bit or cut it down. I used my Dremel tool for that to make room for the decoder. Now I used a harness decoder. It was a TSU 2200 DSD. For the Proto 2000 GP9. To do it again, I may have used one with pins in it and then also get a decoder buddy, which I used in the Athearn I'll talk about in a minute. So once I got the decoder installed and everything, I decided to do a test run with the engine. The next step was to reprogram the sounds to match my unit. So basically it's a Canadian GP9. So the first and foremost thing was I picked as circled here the EMD 567 engine non-turbocharged, which was the GP9 prime mover. And I picked a Nathan M3 horn, which is classic for the Canadian engines. And I also, the bell already sounded to me what I've heard in other engines and some of the videos I've shot, so I left the bell alone. Now it's time to test it again with the adjustments made to the sound. By the way, if people want, I can do a video on actually showing how I do the decoder adjustments using my programmable track. Now with the Athearn, the GP38-2, I did take a lot more photos, but I would still suggest watching some videos on. Once again, I'll leave some links. There's a lot of work with the blue box, but it's very doable. Just work nice and slow. And there's a couple of obstacles that I ran into, and I'll talk about that. So in this first picture, here it is. What I've done is I've taken off the metal clip, and then what you do is you have to pull the engine out. Or what I do is gently push it because there's these little plugs on the bottom, and you'll see that in one of the videos. And I just used like a Robertson or whatever, a blunt head object, and pushed it out. Just do it really gently. You can break the thing. Apparently you can buy a replacement, or you could get one 3D printed, but the best thing is if you could get that out intact. You don't want to glue that back in, or just place it back in. And once you do that, you're going to put, you can see the yellow roll of tape in the background in front of the painter tape, and that you're going to put down underneath the engine. You want to insulate the frame, otherwise you're going to short the whole thing out, which you don't want to do. And just quickly walking through here, and you can see I've got things wired up. I've got some wires run to the layout, and also I bought what's called a decoder buddy, and you can Google them. They are a really cool company, and the guy that works there, it's a small company, he's really super helpful. So you tell him what engine you got, and he'll recommend which decoder buddy to purchase, and he will also recommend what decoder potentially to purchase. So I used in this case, it was I think it was 11 pin. Anyways, a TSU-21P DST. So I'm sorry, 21 pin. And so it just plugs in. So what you do is you do all your soldering, in this case, to the decoder buddy, not to the decoder like I had to do with the Proto, which is riskier, by the way. And then you just plug the decoder in when you're all done. So it just makes the whole process a little bit nicer. Now, I did run into spacing issues. I couldn't seem to fit the shell back on, and I saw on a YouTube video a guy had come up with this thing that he 3D printed, and what it basically does, it clips onto the chassis, and I'll show you in a minute, and he's posted on Thingiverse, and I'll leave a link to that as well. So if you know somebody or you have a 3D printer, you can print this off yourself. It's really kind of slick, really. So here it is. So I've put the decoder buddy on. You can see that I've got some double-sided tape, and to fix the decoder buddy back on to the plastic harness. And in the end, I did is I actually moved it down to the lower part, so to try and make more room. And also the Athearn videos will show you where you wire everything up to, and that. Once again, it's really important to make sure you do the proper soldering and you don't short things out, but just take it slow and it'll be okay. Anyway, and just a step by step. So once again, just showing some of the wiring in that. And typically most of the wires are color coded, and if you have the right color wires, it does make it easier, or just keep track of which is which, the orange ones, the red, the black, and the gray and such. And then on the decoder buddy, there's this extra harness. I believe this is where the headlights plug in. And what you do is when you get the decoder buddy, not decoder bunny, it gives you a diagram of how to get everything set up, and I'll show you what is the front-facing headlights and the back-facing headlights, depending on which direction your train engine is going to face. So at the end of the day, there it is. It's all set for me to pop the engine on and test it out. As with the GP9, I also had to redo the sounds on the GP38. So in this case, the engine on the GP38-2 is similar to the GP9, but it's a bit larger. It's an EMD 645 non-turbo. And once again, I went with the Athearn M3 horn. And just a little bit of additional comment here. I also went with LED lighting for both engines. I bought that on Amazon. And they're 30 AWG wire warm white SMD LED 0805 lights with resistors built in for 12 volts. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, mind you, when you're using a decoder buddy, the resistor is built in, so you actually have to clip the resistor off in those cases, which is a little bit counterproductive, but I prefer to get them with the resistors built in when you're working with Proto 2000 and other stuff, if you're not working with a decoder buddy. Now here's a test with the GP38-2 with the body on and pulling the train on my train line. So as we watch a final test with my GP9 pulling the train on North Bay Yard, I would recommend, I mean, maybe not for everybody, but I took a big chance on these two projects. And to be honest, I made mistakes. I did actually blow a decoder. Now, at the time when I did it, the decoder company, if you have a receipt showing that you purchased within 90 days, they will send you a replacement. You have to send it back to them, though. I don't know if that's going to carry on or not, but it was very good of them to do that. So be very careful when you're wiring up a decoder. They are very sensitive, and one short will destroy it. The other problem I ran into, even with that plastic piece that I put in the GP38, with the decoder, with the pins on the decoder buddy, there's still not quite enough room on the engine for the shell to properly fit on. So if I had that to do over again, I may use a harness decoder, and then I could put it in a lower spot on the engine. Other than that, both engines run well and both engines sound great. So I hope you enjoyed this project. If you enjoyed watching this video, please click like, and if you want to see more videos on model trains and real trains, please subscribe now.